The patrol ship moved slowly through empty space. Captain Yuna stood at the front window, watching the darkness ahead. Her silver scales reflected the dim lights of the bridge. She had been traveling through this dead zone for 3 days now. Nothing lived here. No planets. No stations. Just cold, empty space. "Captain, I am picking up something strange," said Jinwoo from his station. He was young, barely past his training years. His fingers moved across the glowing screen. "There is a ship ahead. Very old. The computer says it is more than 12,000 years old." Yuna turned around. 12,000 years was impossible. No ship could survive that long in space. The metal would break down. The power would die. Everything would become dust. "Show me," she said. The main screen flickered and displayed an image. The ship was massive, bigger than anything Yuna had ever seen. It was shaped like a long rectangle with curved edges. Strange symbols covered its hull. The design was nothing like any species in the Galactic Collective. "What species built this?" Yuna asked. Jinwoo shook his head. "Unknown, Captain. The computer cannot match it to any known civilization." Yuna felt something cold move through her chest. In her 40 years of service, she had never seen anything like this. Ships from unknown species meant danger, but they also meant discovery. And discovery meant rewards. "Take us closer," she ordered. Slowly, the patrol ship approached the ancient vessel. As they got closer, Yuna could see damage on its surface. Burn marks. Holes from weapons. This ship had been in a battle long ago, but it was still in one piece, still floating in the void. "I am detecting a small power source inside," said Hana. She was the ship's medic, a Talosi with 4 arms and gentle eyes. "Something is still running in there. Life signs?" Yuna asked. Hana checked her instruments twice before answering. "1, very faint. But yes, Captain. Something is alive in that ship." The crew looked at each other. A living thing surviving for 12,000 years? It seemed impossible. But the readings did not lie. Yuna made her decision quickly. "Prepare a boarding team. I will lead it myself." They crossed to the old ship through a connecting tube. The air inside was cold and stale. Dust floated everywhere. Their lights cut through the darkness, showing walls covered with more strange symbols. The floor was metal, worn smooth by time. "This way," Hana said, following her scanner. "The life sign is coming from the lower level." They walked through empty corridors. Yuna saw old machines, their purpose unknown. She saw chairs designed for bodies shaped like hers, but also different. Whoever built this ship had 2 arms and 2 legs. They stood upright. They were about her height. The lower level opened into a large room. Yuna stopped at the entrance, her breath catching in her throat. Rows of pods filled the room. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were made of glass and metal, shaped like sleeping beds. Inside each one was a body, frozen, still. "Cryopods," Hana whispered. They put themselves to sleep. Yuna walked between the rows, looking at the faces behind the glass. They all looked similar. Soft skin in shades of brown and pink. Hair on their heads in black and brown colors. 2 eyes closed in endless sleep. They wore matching uniforms with symbols on the chest. "They are all dead," Hana said sadly, checking each pod with her scanner. "The power failed long ago. Their bodies are preserved, but there is no life." Yuna felt disappointment settle in her stomach. All these beings, frozen in time, hoping to wake up someday. But their hope had died with them. "Wait," Hana said suddenly. Her 4 hands moved quickly over her scanner. "Captain, this one is different." She pointed to a pod at the end of the row. It looked the same as the others, but a small light glowed on its surface. Green, steady, alive. Yuna approached the pod and looked inside. A male lay there, his face peaceful in sleep. He was bigger than the others, with broader shoulders and thicker arms. His hair was dark, cut short. His skin was a warm brown color. He wore the same uniform, but with extra markings on his shoulders. His pod still has power, Hana explained. A separate backup system. It has been keeping him alive all this time. His body temperature is stable. His brain activity is minimal, but present. Captain, this one can be woken up. Yuna stared at the sleeping figure. 12,000 years. This being had been sleeping since before the Galactic Collective existed. Since before her species had learned to travel between stars. He was older than history itself. What species is he? Yuna asked. Hana took a sample from the pod's external sensors. Her eyes widened as she read the results. Human, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Captain, he's human. The word hung in the air like smoke. Human. Yuna knew that word. Every species in the galaxy knew that word. Humans were legends. Stories told to children. They were the ghost species, the ones who had vanished during the Great Silence 12,000 years ago. Humans are extinct, Jinwoo said. He had followed them down and now stood frozen near the door. They have been gone for thousands of years. Not this one, Yuna replied. She looked at the sleeping man for a long moment. Her mind raced with possibilities. A living human would change everything. Scientists would want to study him. Historians would want to interview him. The Collective Council would want to know about this immediately. Wake him, Yuna ordered. Hana hesitated. Captain, we do not know anything about this species. The old records are incomplete. He could be dangerous. He is one person, Yuna said. We are a trained crew with weapons. And he has been asleep for 12,000 years. He will be weak and confused. We can handle him. Hana nodded slowly and began working on the pod's controls. The systems were old, but still functional. She found the revival sequence and activated it. The pod began to hum. Warm air flowed through internal vents. The ice crystals on the glass melted away. The man's chest started to rise and fall as his lungs began working again. Then his eyes opened. They were dark brown, deep and calm. He looked up at the faces staring down at him. Yuna expected fear. She expected confusion. She expected the panic of someone waking up in a strange place, surrounded by alien creatures. Instead, the man simply sat up. He moved slowly but smoothly, like someone stretching after a long sleep. He looked at his hands. He looked at the dead pods around him. He looked at Yuna and her crew. When he spoke, his voice was rough but steady. How long? He asked. The translation device in Yuna's ear worked quickly, finding patterns in his language. She understood him clearly. 12,000 years, she answered. The man closed his eyes for a moment. Just one moment. Then he opened them again and nodded once. I understand, he said simply. No tears, no shouting, no breakdown. Just acceptance. Yuna felt the first cold touch of fear in her heart. She had seen soldiers receive terrible news before. She knew how people reacted to trauma. This was not normal. This calm, this control, it was not the behavior of a frightened person waking from a long sleep. It was the behavior of something else entirely. She just did not know what yet. They woke a human from stasis sleep, then realized he was too strong. Part 2. The passenger. The human's name was Dohwan. He told him this on the first day, speaking slowly while the translation device learned his language. Sergeant Dohwan, Korean Space Corps, 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. The words meant nothing to Yuna, but she recorded them anyway. They gave him a small room near the medical bay. It had a bed, a table, and a window that showed the stars outside. Do-hwan spent his first hours there, sitting by the window, watching the darkness pass by. He did not ask many questions. He did not demand anything. He simply sat and watched and waited. Hana visited him every few hours to check his health. She found no problems. His heart beat steadily. His blood flowed normally. His body temperature matched what the old records said was typical for humans. If anything, he seemed healthier than expected for someone who had just woken from 12,000 years of frozen sleep. "You are recovering very quickly," she told him on the second day. "Most species need weeks to regain their strength after cryosleep. You seem almost normal already." Do-hwan shrugged his broad shoulders. "I feel fine," he said. "A little hungry, maybe." They gave him food from their supplies. The collective standard rations were made to feed many different species. Do-hwan ate everything without complaint. He did not seem to enjoy it, but he did not refuse it either. He ate like eating was a job, something to be completed efficiently. By the third day, Do-hwan was walking around the ship. He asked permission first, always polite, always respectful. Yuna allowed it. She assigned Jinwoo to follow him and report on his behavior. "He is curious," Jinwoo told her that evening. "He asks about everything. How the engines work, how the life support functions, how we communicate across long distances. He learns fast, Captain." "Very fast. How fast?" Yuna asked. Jinwoo looked uncomfortable. "I taught him some basic words in our language this morning. By afternoon, he was speaking incomplete sentences. He makes mistakes, but he corrects himself quickly. It is like watching a computer learn." This was strange. Language learning took time. Even the smartest species needed months to master a new way of speaking. 3 days was impossible. And yet, when Yuna spoke to Do-hwan that night, he answered her in her own language, rough but understandable. "I have always been good with languages," he said when she asked how he learned so quickly. "It was part of my training." Training. He used that word often. Everything seemed to be part of his training. The way he moved through the ship, always aware of his surroundings. The way he studied their technology, memorizing details after a single look. The way he exercised in the cargo bay, his body moving through patterns that looked like fighting and dancing mixed together. Yuna watched him exercise one morning through the security cameras. Do-hwan moved for 2 hours without stopping. Push-ups, pull-ups, strange poses that stretched his muscles in ways that looked painful. He used heavy cargo containers as weights, lifting them over his head again and again. When he finished, he was barely breathing hard. "He is strong," said Hana, who was watching beside her. "Much stronger than he should be." "What do you mean?" "I checked his muscle density yesterday. It is almost 3 times higher than other species of similar size. His bones are denser too. And his healing rate." Hana paused, searching for the right words. "I accidentally cut him during a blood test. Just a small cut. By the time I reached for the bandage, the wound was already closing." Yuna felt that cold touch of fear again. It had been growing inside her since the moment Do-hwan opened his eyes. She tried to ignore it, telling herself she was being paranoid. Do-hwan had done nothing wrong. He was polite, helpful, and cooperative. But something about him felt wrong. Something she could not name. That afternoon, an accident answered her questions. Do-hwan was helping the engineering crew repair a broken power conduit in the cargo bay. It was simple work, nothing dangerous. But then a support beam broke loose. 2 tons of metal fell from the ceiling, heading straight for young engineer Minho. Everyone saw it happen. Everyone knew Minho would die. There was no time to move, no time to shout a warning. Then Do-hwan was there. He moved so fast that the cameras could not track him, One moment he was 10 meters away. The next moment he was under the falling beam, his hands raised above his head. The metal struck him with a sound like thunder and stopped. Do-won held the beam. 2 tons of solid metal, and he held it like it weighed nothing. His arms did not shake. His knees did not bend. He stood completely still, the beam resting in his palms, and then he gently lowered it to the floor. Everyone stared. No one spoke. The silence stretched on and on. Do-won looked at their faces and saw their fear. Something sad passed through his eyes. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I did not mean to frighten you." Then he walked away, leaving the crew standing frozen in the cargo bay. That night, Jinwoo came to Yuna with something he had found. "I searched the old archives," he said. His voice was shaking. "The very old ones, from before the Great Silence. I found records about humans." He showed her the files. They were damaged, incomplete, but readable. Yuna scanned through them quickly, her heart beating faster with every word. Humans were not ordinary beings. They had been created, engineered, modified over thousands of years. Not by another species, but by themselves. They had changed their own bodies, their own blood, their own bones. They had made themselves stronger, faster, harder to kill. They had made themselves into weapons. The records contained reports from old species, long extinct. Observations of human soldiers in battle. Descriptions of their abilities. Warnings about their strength. And at the bottom of one file, hidden in a diplomatic message from a species that no longer existed, Yuna found these words: "Do not wake the sleepers. The humans are not like us. They were built for war, and war lives in their blood. If you find them sleeping, let them sleep. The galaxy is safer when they dream." Yuna read the warning 3 times. Then she looked at Jinwoo. "What happened to them?" she asked. "Why did they disappear?" "The records say they fought something," Jinwoo answered. "Something called the Devouring Swarm. A great enemy that was destroying the entire galaxy. The humans fought it. They won. And then they left." "Left? Left where?" Jinwoo spread his hands helplessly. "No one knows. They put themselves to sleep and disappeared. Some records say they were waiting for something. Others say they were hiding from something. But everyone agreed on one thing." "What?" "They were afraid of humans." "Captain, everyone in the old galaxy was terrified of humans. Not because humans were cruel or evil, but because when humans fought, nothing could stop them. They did not know how to lose. They did not know how to give up. They just kept fighting until everything else was dead." Yuna thought about Do-won. His calm eyes, his polite manner, his quick mind and gentle voice, and his hands, holding 2 tons of metal like it was made of paper. She thought about the dead pods in that ancient ship. Thousands of bodies frozen in time. And somewhere out there, more ships, more pods, more humans sleeping and waiting and dreaming of war. What would happen if they woke up? Before she could think about this question, the alarm started screaming. "Captain!" someone shouted from the bridge. "We have company." 5 ships dropping out of faster than light. Yuna ran to the bridge. On the main screen, she saw 5 vessels, black and ugly, covered with spikes and weapons. "Marrow Reapers," Jinwoo said, his voice filled with horror. "Captain, they are Marrow Reapers, the most feared pirates in the galaxy. They attacked without warning and left no survivors. They killed everyone, took everything, and vanished before help could arrive. And now they were here." Yuna stared at the approaching ships and felt her hope dying. They were a small patrol vessel with minimal weapons. Against 5 Reaper ships, they had no chance. Then a quiet voice spoke behind her. "Captain," Do-won said, "may I help?" They woke a human from stasis sleep. then realized he was too strong. Part 3. The Violence Awakens. The Marrow Reapers did not waste time with warnings. Their ships surrounded the patrol vessel and fired cutting beams at the hull. They were not trying to destroy the ship. They were trying to break inside. Yuna ordered her crew to the emergency positions. They had weapons, but not many. 8 security officers with plasma pistols. That was all. Against a full Reaper boarding party, it would not be enough. "They will come through the lower decks," she said, studying the damage reports. "The cutting beams are focused there. We need to set up a defense line." "There are too many entry points," said her security chief, a large Valorian named Tayson. "We cannot cover them all." "Captain, we do not have enough people." Do-hwan stood at the back of the bridge, watching silently. He had not spoken since his offer to help. Now he stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "How many will come?" he asked. Tayson looked at him with distrust. "Marrow Reapers travel in groups of 12 to 15 per ship. If all 5 ships send boarding parties, we could face 70 or more. What weapons do they carry?" "Plasma cutters, neural disruptors, combat knives. They wear armor that resists most of our weapons." Tayson shook his head. "They are professionals. They have killed thousands. We cannot fight them." Do-hwan nodded slowly, processing the information. Then he turned to Yuna. "Captain, give me permission to engage them." "Just me. Keep your crew back and seal the doors behind me." Yuna stared at him. "You want to fight 70 armed pirates alone?" "Yes, that is suicide." Do-hwan smiled. It was a small, tired smile that did not reach his eyes. "No, Captain. For them, it will be." Before Yuna could respond, the ship shook violently. Alarms screamed from every speaker. "They have breached the hull," Tayson reported. "Lower deck, Section 4. They are coming in." On the security cameras, Yuna watched dark figures pour through the hole in her ship. They moved fast, their armor gleaming under the emergency lights. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. There were 12 of them in the first wave. "Captain!" A voice screamed through the communication system. It was one of her crew members stationed in the lower deck. "They are here." "They are," the voice cut off. Then there was silence. "Crewman Sujin is dead," someone said quietly. Yuna's heart felt like ice. Sujin was young, barely 20 years old. She had joined the crew only 3 months ago. Now she was gone. More Reapers flooded through the breach. 20 now, 25. They spread through the lower deck like a disease, killing everything in their path. Yuna made her decision. "Do-hwan," she said, "do what you need to do." The human nodded once. He walked to the door, paused, and looked back at her. "Keep everyone behind sealed doors," he said. "Do not open them until I tell you. And Captain, do not watch the cameras. You will not like what you see." Then he was gone. Yuna watched him go. She wanted to follow his advice about the cameras. She wanted to look away, to wait in ignorance until it was over. But she was the captain. She needed to know what was happening on her ship. So she watched. Do-hwan walked through the corridors alone. No weapon, no armor, just his body and the clothes they had given him. He moved without hurrying, his footsteps steady and calm. He looked like a man taking a walk through a garden, not entering a war zone. The first Reaper found him near the engineering section. The pirate raised his plasma cutter and fired without hesitation. The bolt hit Do-hwan in the chest, burning through his shirt. Do-hwan did not fall. He did not even slow down. He walked through the plasma fire like it was rain. When he reached the Reaper, he grabbed the pirate's arm and twisted. The sound of breaking bone was clear through the camera's microphone. Then Do-hwan killed him. Yuna had seen violence before. She had seen battles and executions and the aftermath of raids. but she had never seen anything like this. Dawan did not fight like a soldier. He fought like a force of nature. He moved through the reapers like a storm through trees. Every movement was perfect, efficient, final. He broke bones with his bare hands. He crushed armor like it was made of paper. He killed with a speed and precision that made the pirates look like children playing with toys. One reaper shot him in the shoulder. The bolt burned deep into his flesh, the smell of cooking meat filling the corridor. Dawan grabbed the shooter's head with both hands and squeezed. The helmet cracked, then collapsed. The reaper dropped, dead before he hit the floor. Another reaper attacked from behind with a combat knife. The blade sank into Dawan's back, just below the shoulder blade. Dawan turned, grabbed the reaper by the throat, and threw him into the wall. The impact left a crater in the metal. The reaper did not move again. Yuna watched in horrified silence as Dawan moved through her ship. He found every reaper. He killed everyone. Some tried to run, but he was too fast. Some tried to surrender, raising their hands and begging for mercy. But there was no mercy in Dawan now. His face was empty, his eyes cold. He had become something else, something without pity or hesitation. The whole thing took less than 4 minutes. When it was over, Dawan stood in the middle of the lower deck, surrounded by bodies. 12 reapers lay dead around him, their blood pooling on the metal floor. Some were broken. Some were crushed. Some looked like they had been torn apart by a wild animal. Dawan breathed heavily, his chest rising and falling. Blood covered his hands, his arms, his face. Some of it was the reapers. Some of it was his own. Yuna could see the wound on his shoulder, raw and terrible. Then she saw something impossible. The wound was closing. Right there, on the camera, she watched the burned flesh pull itself back together. New skin grew over the damage, pink and fresh. Within seconds, the wound was gone. Only a faint scar remained. Dawan looked up at the camera. He knew she was watching. His eyes were tired and sad. "It is done," he said quietly. "You can open the doors now." Yuna did not move. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. Around her, the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. No one knew what to say. Tae-sun finally found his voice. What is he?" Yuna remembered the warning from the ancient files. Do not wake the sleepers. The humans are not like us. They were built for war, and war lives in their blood. He is human, she said. That is what humans are. On the camera, Dawan began walking toward the bridge. He moved slowly now, the battle rage fading from his body. He stopped at a water station and washed the blood from his hands. The water ran red, then pink, then clear. When he reached the bridge, the door opened automatically. He stepped inside and looked at the crew. Every eye was fixed on him. Every face showed the same expression, fear. Dawan saw their fear. He understood it. He did not try to pretend that what they saw was normal. "I am sorry," he said, his voice soft. "I am sorry you had to see that. I am sorry for what I am." No one answered. The silence stretched on and on. Dawan nodded slowly, accepting their fear as his punishment. Then he turned and walked back to his small room near the medical bay. He closed the door behind him and did not come out again. Yuna sat in her captain's chair, staring at nothing. Her ship was safe. Her remaining crew was alive. The Reapers were dead, all 23 of them, killed by one man in 4 minutes. She should feel grateful. She should feel relieved. Instead, she felt cold. Cold all the way to her bones. Because now she understood something terrible. They had not rescued Dawan from that ancient ship. They had not saved him from endless sleep. They had released something. Something old and dangerous and powerful beyond imagining. And now it was awake. They woke a human from stasis sleep, then realized he was too strong. Part 4. The Truth of Humanity. 3 days passed before Yuna decided to speak with Do-hwan. 3 days of silence and fear and whispered conversations among the crew. 3 days of repairing the damage to the ship and removing the bodies of the dead Reapers. 3 days of trying to understand what she had witnessed. Do-hwan stayed in his room during this time. He did not ask for food. Do-hana left meals outside his door. He did not try to speak with anyone. He simply waited, alone in the dark, like a monster in a cage. On the 3rd day, Yuna stood outside his door and gathered her courage. She had questions. She needed answers. The fear would not go away until she understood what Do-hwan truly was. She knocked twice. The door opened. Do-hwan sat by the window, looking at the stars. He did not turn when she entered. His eyes stayed fixed on the darkness outside. "I was wondering when you would come," he said quietly. Yuna sat in the chair across from him. She studied his face, searching for signs of the monster she had seen on the cameras. But there was nothing. Just a tired man with sad eyes, looking at the endless night. "I need to know the truth," she said. "About what you are. About where you come from. About why you were sleeping in that ship for 12,000 years. Do-hwan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "That is fair," he said. "You saved my life. You gave me food and shelter. And in return, I showed you something terrible. You deserve to know why." He turned to face her, his dark eyes meeting hers. "What do your records say about humans?" he asked. "They say you were engineered, changed, made into weapons." Yuna paused. "They say everyone in the old galaxy was afraid of you." "All of that is true." Do-hwan's voice was calm, almost peaceful. "We were not always like this. Long ago, humans were weak, fragile, easy to kill. We lived on a single planet, fighting among ourselves, barely surviving. Then we reached the stars. And you found the devouring swarm," Yuna said. The name hung in the air between them. Do-hwan's expression did not change, but something dark moved in his eyes. "Yes, the swarm." He spoke the word like it was poison. It was not one species. It was many species, joined together into one mind. A machine made of living things. It traveled from star to star, consuming everything. Planets, ships, civilizations. Nothing could stop it. Nothing could even slow it down. "The old records say you fought it," Yuna said. "And you won. We won." Do-hwan laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Yes, we won. But the cost. Captain, you cannot imagine the cost." He stood and walked to the window, pressing his hand against the cold glass. "When we first met the swarm, we were like you, normal, ordinary. We died by the millions. Our weapons did nothing. Our ships burned like paper. The swarm did not negotiate. It did not threaten. It simply consumed and kept consuming until nothing was left." "So you changed yourselves," Yuna said. "We had no choice. The other species were too weak, too afraid. They ran and hid and hoped the swarm would not find them. But we could not run. Our planet was in the swarm's path. We would be consumed like everyone else, unless we became something more." Do-hwan turned back to face her. His eyes were hard now, filled with old pain. The first generation of modified humans died within months. Their bodies rejected the changes. The second generation lived longer, but they went mad. The third generation was stable, but not strong enough. We kept trying. We kept dying. We kept changing. "How many generations?" Yuna asked softly. 37. It took 37 generations to create soldiers who could fight the swarm. By then, we were not really human anymore. Our bones were reinforced with synthetic materials. Our muscles were 3 times denser than natural. Our healing factor could close wounds in minutes. Our reflexes were enhanced beyond any natural limit. We felt less pain. We needed less sleep. We could survive injuries that would kill any other species. He raised his hand and looked at it, turning it slowly in the light. We made ourselves into weapons, he said. Living, thinking weapons, designed for one purpose, to destroy the swarm. And you did, Una said. Yes, the war lasted 300 years. 300 years of endless battle, spreading across the entire galaxy. By the end, our population had fallen from 30 billion to less than 10 million. Our home planet was gone, burned to ash by swarm attacks. Most of the species we tried to protect were extinct. But the swarm was dead. Every last piece of it, hunted down and destroyed. Una tried to imagine 300 years of war. 300 years of killing and dying and watching everyone you loved become ash. It was too big, too terrible to fit in her mind. After the war, Dowan continued, we thought we could rest. We thought we could rebuild, become normal again. But the other species, they did not see us that way. They looked at us and saw the things we had become. The strength, the speed, the ability to kill without weapons. They were grateful for what we had done, but they were also terrified of what we might do next. They feared you would conquer them, Una said. Yes, and maybe they were right to fear that. After 300 years of war, we had forgotten how to be peaceful. We had forgotten how to be weak. Some of my people talked about creating an empire, ruling the galaxy we had saved. Others wanted to punish the species who had hidden while we bled and died. But you did not do that. No, Daohan shook his head slowly. Our leaders made a different choice. We had saved the galaxy, but we had also become too dangerous to live in it. So we left. We built hidden ships, scattered them across the empty spaces between stars, and put ourselves to sleep. We would wait until the galaxy forgot its fear, until we were needed again, or until we simply faded away. Una was quiet for a long time, processing his words. 12,000 years of sleep. A whole species, frozen in time, waiting for a future that might never come. How many ships? She finally asked. How many of your people are still sleeping? Dowan was silent. His eyes moved to the window again, staring at the darkness between the stars. Thousands, he said at last. Scattered across the galaxy. Hidden in dead zones and empty spaces where no one would look. Each ship carries between 100 and 500 sleepers. And each sleeper is like me. Hana had joined them at some point, standing quietly in the doorway. Now she spoke for the first time. If they all woke up, she said, you would have an army. Yes, Dowan agreed. An army of millions. An army that could conquer every species in the galaxy if it wanted to. And do you want that? Una asked. After everything that happened to you, after being abandoned and forgotten for 12,000 years, do you want revenge? Dowan looked at her for a long moment. His face showed nothing, but his eyes were filled with something old and deep and terribly sad. I do not know, he said honestly. When I woke up, I was prepared to find a galaxy that hated us. A galaxy that wanted us dead. Instead, I found people like you. Afraid, yes. Confused, yes. But not cruel, not evil. You woke me when you could have left me to die. You gave me food when you could have let me starve. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. Humans were built for war, but we were also built to protect. The question is, does this galaxy need protecting? Or has it learned to protect itself? Before anyone could answer, the ship's communication system crackled to life. Captain, Jinwoo's voice said urgently, we are receiving a transmission. It is on a frequency we have never seen before. And Captain, it is addressed to Dowan. By name, Yuna looked at Dowan. The human's expression had changed completely. For the first time since she met him, he looked surprised. That is impossible, he said. No one knows I am awake. No one should be able to. He stopped. His eyes widened. The signal, he whispered. They sent a signal. When my pod activated, it must have sent a signal. Who sent it? Yuna demanded. Who is calling you? Dowan's face was pale now, his usual calm shattered by something that looked almost like fear. My people, he said. Captain, my people are calling me. And if they are calling me, it means they are waking up too. They woke a human from stasis sleep, then realized he was too strong. Part 5. The awakening, the transmission, came through clearly, despite traveling across half the galaxy. A woman's voice, speaking in the old human language, calm and professional. This is Commander Yunji, Human Preservation Fleet 7. Revival signal confirmed. All sleeper ships are activating emergency protocols. Dowan, if you can hear this, respond immediately. We are waking up. All of us. Dowan stood frozen by the communication console, listening to the message repeat. His face was pale, his hands shaking slightly. For a man who had shown no fear while killing 23 armed pirates, his reaction was disturbing. All of them, he whispered. They are waking all of them. How many is all of them? Yuna asked. Dowan did not answer immediately. He closed his eyes, and Yuna saw his lips moving, calculating numbers too large for her to understand. 10,000 ships, he finally said. Average of 200 sleepers per ship. 2 million humans, Captain. 2 million soldiers, all waking at the same time. The bridge fell completely silent. 2 million. It was not a large number compared to the Galactic Collective's population. But 2 million humans, each as strong and deadly as Dowan, was not a population. It was a catastrophe waiting to happen. Why now? Hannah asked. You said you were waiting until you were needed again. Has something happened? I do not know. Dowan's voice was troubled. The revival protocol was only supposed to activate if a major threat was detected. Something like the swarm, something that endangered the whole galaxy. He moved to the tactical console and began entering commands with surprising skill. Within seconds, he had pulled up a galactic map that showed thousands of blinking points scattered across the darkness. These are the sleeper ships, he explained. Each point represents a location where my people are waking up right now. Look at the pattern. Yuna looked. The points were not random. They formed a rough circle around the galaxy's center, with heavy concentrations along certain routes and near certain systems. They are strategic positions, Tayson realized. Defensive positions. Your people spread themselves out to cover the entire galaxy. Yes, in case the swarm returned from somewhere we could not predict. Dowan zoomed in on a cluster of points near the galactic edge. But this does not make sense. There is no threat here. The collective is peaceful. Your civilizations are stable. Why would the protocol activate without a reason? The communication console crackled again. This time, a different voice came through. A male voice, older and harder. All ships, this is Admiral Jiangsu. The situation has been confirmed. Unknown energy signatures detected in the outer rim, matching swarm contamination patterns. Probability of swarm survival, 73%. All units proceed to Rally Point 7 and await further orders. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The words hit the bridge like a physical blow. Swarm contamination. 73% probability. The thing that had nearly destroyed the galaxy 12,000 years ago might still be alive. That is impossible, Dohwan said, but his voice lacked conviction. We destroyed every piece. We hunted down every trace. Nothing survived. Apparently something did, Yuna said. Her own voice was surprisingly calm, even though her heart was racing. Or something new has appeared. Dohwan was silent for a long moment, processing this information. Then his expression changed. The confusion and worry faded, replaced by something harder, something colder. The soldier was waking up inside him, pushing aside the gentle man she had come to know. I need to go to them, he said. My people are gathering. They will need every soldier they can get. And what about us? Yuna asked. What happens to the Galactic Collective while you fight this new war? Dohwan looked at her. His eyes were ancient, filled with memories of battles she could not imagine. That depends, he said slowly. The last time we fought the swarm, we fought alone. The other species hid and hoped and prayed. We bled and died and watched our world burn. And when it was over, we were too changed to live among you. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. If there is a new threat, my people will fight it. That is what we were made for. But this time, maybe things can be different. Maybe the collective can stand beside us instead of hiding behind us. Maybe we can be allies instead of protectors. You want us to join your war? Tayson asked. I want you to have a choice. Dohwan's voice was firm, but not threatening. 12,000 years ago, we took all the danger and all the death and left nothing for the rest of the galaxy. We thought we were protecting you, but we were also taking away your chance to be strong. This time, if you want to fight beside us, the opportunity is there. Yuna thought about this. Her ship was small, her crew was frightened, and she had no authority to commit the collective to anything. But she understood what Dohwan was offering. Not domination, not control, just partnership. I cannot speak for the collective, she said finally, but I can take you to them. I can help you make your case. And personally, I would rather face any threat beside you than behind you. Dohwan smiled. It was a real smile this time, small but genuine. Thank you, Captain. That means more than you know. The communication console lit up with dozens of new transmissions. Ships were calling each other across the galaxy, coordinating, planning, preparing. The humans were organizing with a speed and efficiency that was terrifying to witness. In less than an hour, they had transformed from scattered sleepers into a unified military force. We should move, Dohwan said. Rally Point 7 is near the Galactic Center. It will take several days to reach it, but the journey will give me time to contact the other commanders and learn more about the situation. Yuna nodded and turned to her crew. They looked scared, uncertain, overwhelmed. She understood. A few days ago, they had been a simple patrol ship checking empty space. Now they were caught up in events that would shape the galaxy. Set course for the Galactic Center, she ordered. Maximum speed. As the ship turned and accelerated, Yuna moved to stand beside Dohwan at the observation window. The stars stretched into lines as they entered faster than light travel. But in the stillness of the ship, everything felt frozen. What do you think will happen? She asked quietly. Dohwan was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was distant, as if he was looking at something far beyond the window. I do not know, he admitted. 12,000 years ago, I knew what the future held. War, death, sacrifice. I was prepared for all of it. But now everything is different. The galaxy has changed. My people have changed. And I have changed too. How? Before I went to sleep, I only cared about one thing: destroying the enemy. I did not think about what would come after. I did not think about peace or rebuilding or living a normal life. He turned to look at her. But now I do. Meeting you, seeing your crew, watching you show fear but still choose to be brave. It reminded me that there are things worth protecting besides simple survival. Yuna did not know how to respond to that. She felt the weight of his words, the 12,000 years of pain and loss and loneliness behind them. "The galaxy is not the same as before," she said. "The collective has its problems, but we have also learned to work together. Different species, different cultures, all finding ways to cooperate." "Maybe that is what you were waiting for." "Maybe," Do-hwan agreed. "Or maybe we were waiting for someone to show us that change is possible. That weapons can become guardians and soldiers can become friends." The ship continued its journey through the stars. Behind them, across the entire galaxy, 10,000 other ships were activating. Cryopods were opening. Humans were waking up, stretching muscles that had been frozen for millennia, blinking eyes that had not seen light in 12,000 years. They were confused. They were disoriented. They were frightened, but they were also ready. Somewhere in the outer rim, something old and hungry was stirring. Something that should have been dead, but was not. Something that remembered the taste of civilizations and the joy of consumption thought the swarm had survived. Or something like it had been born again. And it would soon learn that the galaxy was not as defenseless as it had been before, because the humans were back. And this time, they were not alone on the bridge of the patrol ship. Yuna watched the stars pass and felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Hope. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. Human and Valorian. Soldier and captain. Monster and friend. The galaxy had woken a human from stasis sleep. It had realized he was too strong, but maybe, just maybe, that strength was exactly what they needed. The stars waited. The darkness grew, and somewhere in the void, 10,000 ships began moving toward the center of the galaxy, carrying 2 million sleeping giants who have finally opened their eyes. The awakening had begun.